Well, here we go again with another Q&A, my friend. So today we have one about a dog shredding the pee pads. So what's not fun about that is having to deal with like picking up the mess of the shredded pee pads is bad enough alone, but if they happen to have soiled the pee pads before shredding, that's really bad. So today I have a question. Um, this person has a 15-week-old Havanese. Those are very cute, by the way. One of my favorite Havaneses in the world is a little dog named Izzy Rose. Bless that little Havanese's heart. She's adorable. Anyhow, this is a mix, a Havanese mix, female puppy that they're using pee pads with, but then she started eating / shredding the pads. What should we do in that situation? Well, obviously, your dog wants you to take her outside to pee. So that's it. Done. Talk to you guys later. Let me click the end button. Not really. But that's always something you could consider. But if you really want your dog to go on the pee pads and not shred them, this is where it's going to take some good old-fashioned watching them. And I know it sounds overly simplistic, but the idea is if your dog's shredding them right now, it's usually out of boredom and it's fun. So we're going to want to interrupt that behavior enough times when we're home watching so that eventually, if the idea is you to be able to leave or go to sleep and this dog not shred the pee pads, this is a great place to start. Now, obviously, there's more questions I'd love to dig in and ask, which is not always possible on these things. But if you do want to dive deep, feel free to check out askjtdt.com/CC360. And that stands for Canine Connect 360. And JTDT is Jeff the Dog Trainer. And now that we have that out of the way, let's go back to the situation at hand. Whenever we have a dog doing any bad behavior, whether it's shredding the pee pads or scratching the door or eating the slippers or chewing through drywall, do these sound like familiar situations to some people? They might. These are some of the stuff I work with commonly on people when I'm not teaching online and I'm doing it in real life. And whenever we're dealing with these situations, everyone wants the magic answer. Like, well, what can I do just to make them not do it? Well, being able to correct from a distance helps. But with the pee pad, you have to have really good aim, like especially if you're going to be using some sort of like soft throwing projectile. It could be as simple as like a stuffed animal, or you could be a little bit more wild and go with an old-fashioned rolled up towel that seems to be quite popular in the dog training world. But another thing you could do is like sound. And if you can shake something or make the right sound with like the little can or whatever, there's also a can of pennies, that is. There's also these things, they actually sell them and you can shake them and make the noise. But some dogs will respond to that, some won't. But the idea is you're looking for something that's going to interrupt that behavior, even if it's you. And what I look to do in the beginning is I'll take my dog on the pee pads on the leash. So the moment they're done using the pee pads, it's time to teach. And I'll say, hey, after they take a first couple steps or two, great job. Now let's rush over here and we're going to get a snack. Absolutely. Now, what this can lead to is a lot of trouble. Because when you give a dog a snack for going pee and poop, sometimes they'll do it more frequently for more snacks, which can actually lead to marking. But in a case like this, where the bigger issue, at least from not being able to talk to you, but the bigger issue is like ripping and shredding the pee pads. So that's why I love teaching a ritual based around it. So the ritual might be, hey, you just went to the bathroom. Okay, great. Now we're going to race to this part of the house. So it's taking their mind off of, hey, now let's shred the pads. Making sense? Another thing to consider is if you're doing the pee pads in a crate or in a gated area, you might want to not leave them there with the pads to shred, but give them an opportunity to use the pads. If they don't use them, get the pads out of there. It's very, very similar to crate training a dog to go to the bathroom outside. Now, it might involve reducing that size because dogs are less likely to go in the smaller size crate. How big? Well, you just need enough room really for them to be able to stand without having to duck their heads and be able to turn around, okay, and be comfortable when they lay down and stuff. And you want to make it as comfortable as possible without risking your dog. If they have a habit of chewing pee pads, they might chew, crate blankets and things like that. So consider something a little more durable or chew-proof. I know we use stuff here for our dogs that are in boarding, and we use something very magical that we've had for maybe 3 years, and only 1 or 2 dogs have ever even come close to destroying them. And if you're interested in those, feel free to reach out. CIA Dog Training. It's CIA Dog Training at gmail.com. And then I'll have Dawn, who is the assistant, be able to message you back and let you know what kind of kennel pad she uses. But those things work out swell. Gosh, I love them. Nice and comfortable, very hard to destroy. They have these little things, you tie them down. But when we're talking about shredding stuff, we need to find a strong interjector. Now, leashes can work great. Now, if you don't have the leash, okay, you might need to work something else out where, again, you need something remote. So whenever you have to go and touch or like go and interrupt that way, that's fine. It just might take a little bit longer for the dog to understand. But if the dog thinks the act of shredding the pads is what created the interrupter in the absence of you, now it doesn't matter if you're there or not, they're less likely to repeat that behavior. Where in the first scenario, if you're not there, they go no harm, no foul. I can typically get away with it. So it might take some more reps when that's the case to create the same result. So considering something like a citronella collar or something, if you think that's like super inhumane, consider something like even a vibration collar that'll just vibrate. Again, for some dogs this will work for others not so much. But the idea would be, you'd be in another room, nowhere around, and set up like a little camera or something. And then as that dog goes to shred the pad, you just hit the button and the dog's like, what on earth? And then you might have to wait it out because they might go, okay, that was interesting. What happens if I try it again? And as they go to shred the pad, same thing, you would interrupt that behavior. Now, the faster you interrupt it in the process of doing it, the better. If they're shredding for a while and then they get interrupted, that could take a little bit longer for them to understand. But if they start to shred, what on earth? And they start to shred, whoa, that will lead to that behavior ending a lot quicker. But creating a ritual around what to do after using the pads could be an awesome way to do it. And then also using that leash, you don't have to get into that other stuff. It can be an awesome way to do it. But I know so many people have this giant objection to leashing their dog. In fact, I had a guy recently I was doing a little phone coaching with, and they were recommended to me by a couple other clients I had, when apparently I charged a much cheaper rate, okay, almost half what we charge now for kind of our premier package. So anyhow, I was trying to help him out as much as I possibly could. And one of the things I explained to him, I said, look, what a lot of people overlook is this leash thing. And I'm like, if I have a dog and I'm training it for this program, what do you think I do? I put it on a leash and I don't really let it off the leash till I trust it. And so he said, I started doing that and it's actually helping. And I'm like, well, there you go, and I congratulated him because I said, you wouldn't believe how many people are so opposed to it, they won't actually do it. So then they don't create the result. And I tell you what, it's real easy to sit back and learn stuff and consume knowledge. What's a little bit, I guess, more worthy of praise is actually implementing and taking action on that knowledge. So I definitely encourage everyone that has this issue where your dog is ripping and shredding the pad, you're going to have to interrupt it. You're going to have to interrupt it quite a lot typically. Now, the stronger the interruption and the bigger the dog's reaction in those moments, usually the faster you get the result. Now, the smaller the interruption and the less they care about the interruption, it's going to lead to a lot more of having to say the same thing over and over and over and over again before the dog finally understands. Don't shred the pads. It's not in their best interest. But what your dog's looking to do is fulfill their own needs on what are their own best interests. And if they're bored and ripping up the the pads are fun, that's absolutely what they're going to do. So to recap a little bit, we want to make sure we're not giving them a chance to do it, no access to do it, which is rough because you want this dog to go on the pee pads when you're not around, but it starts by doing it with you there, as do almost all dog behaviors that we create. We have to be there to direct, lead, and guide before we can send the fur child to fend for themselves or to not destroy our home when we're not watching. And with our human children, think about it, we go through this long process before we trust them alone, before we trust them with the car keys, or before we trust them to move out or go to the dorm room or whatever it might be, or to not call us every 5 minutes, or, whatever it might be for you as a parent. So why do we take that time? Because we want to trust our kid. We don't want something bad to happen, right? Which is why we watch our child or put them in the crib if we can't, or hire the babysitter or daycare, whatever that might look like for someone, a nanny, whatever. Manny, those are a thing. But the trick is, you actually got to do the work, right? A little bit. Now, some children are easier to train than others. Same is true with dogs. Some parents are just naturally better at projecting the parenting energy than others. I get it. But what you want to do is neutralize and get to where you're going to create results regardless. So if that's you having to step your game up as a parent a little bit, or swapping out your dog for an easier one, just kidding. I know most of you are like, oh, don't say that, Jeff. And I get it. But you'd be surprised how many people actually do that, and it can work out quite well for them if they don't want to put in the time and effort, which I know you do. So because you do want to put in that time and effort, yes, you might have to get outside of your comfort zone to get to your next level right now and be comfortable there. But you'll stay comfortable here, and if you never get uncomfortable to get to the new level, which is your dog not shredding the pads, well, it just won't happen. So you want to get a hair uncomfortable by doing the action. And by uncomfortable, I just mean doing it. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable by any means. It could be completely comfortable and you could love doing it. I don't know anyone that loves trying to correct a bad behavior from a dog unless you're thrilled by the end result or thrilled by learning how dogs communicate, which is pretty much, if you have those qualities, you might want to become a dog trainer. But outside of that, the average pet owner is like, I don't want to tell my dog no. I don't want to stop this bad behavior. Can I just hire you, Mr. Dog Trainer, to do it? And if that's the case, you might want to consider hiring someone to come to your home or take your dog and attempt to work out this problem for you. And the reason I say attempt is when you send the dog back home, there's a high likelihood that when your dog gets back from church camp, they're going to go right back to sinning again. Okay, good at church camp, go home, sinning again. So the dog's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to not have to do this every night. I can't wait so I can go home and, not have to be under the scrutiny of the priest or the pastor or whatever it might be, or the rabbi or who knows. But the idea is this, I guess I want to be church camp then, but some sort of religious reform school or thing. But the idea is like whenever you're having to not be yourself. In this case, your dog's having to not shred the pads because they're under the watch of the dog trainer. When the dog is now under your watch, and they go, thank goodness, I've been waiting to destroy these pads all week. Can't wait. So you really want to create that relationship with you and the dog that when the dog's under your watch or not, that they know the rules in your home is to not, by any circumstances, shred those pads. But if they have access to it and they're able to do it, that's so rewarding for them. You could tell them no afterward as much as you want, but hey, it was just momentarily, and it was worth the slight inconvenience for the fun of shredding those pads. So the real trick is not giving them the gratification of shredding the pads in the first place, which makes them less likely to shred them in the future. All right. Well, hopefully that made some sense, boys and girls. And if it didn't, let me know, and I'll clarify for you to the best of my current ability. And I'm working on making that better all the time. Why? Because at the end of the day, knowing how to train a dog is awesome, but being able to help you train the dogs even better. Because there's just one of me, right? But if I'm able to help you this way, which there's several people who get help this way, believe it or not, we're able to help more people, which leads to less dogs needing rehomed, which leads to less dogs being put down, which leads to more dogs having awesome, happy lives, which is what I'm all about. And I'm happy to facilitate that for someone any way I can. So remember, if you have a question and you want to ask, go to facebook.com/groups/Ask Jeff the Dog Trainer, and I will gladly help you out. And if you're looking to go deeper and you want to go like get some one-on-one coaching, or you want to perhaps join our very awesome membership where we help get people results all the time. We meet each and every week on Thursdays right now at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to meet tomorrow, matter of fact. Make sure you check out askjtdt.com/capital C 360. All right, remember, the fastest way to train your dog and to change their behavior is to change your own behavior. Because when we change our behavior, so like, hey, instead of just letting the dog shred these pads, I'm going to be on top of it. I'm not going to give them the opportunity. We change our behavior. That's going to change our dog's behavior. That's the fastest way to get her done. All right, boys and girls, you have an absolutely wonderful night. And to throw this thing out there, if you happen to get a chance, we're number 2 right now in Amazon for a book that was just released. I was a featured author in there. It's called Pages with Purchase. If you get a chance, or I'm sorry, Pages with Purchase. I'm thinking about asking you to buy it. That's why I said purchase. It's Pages with Purpose. But, you know, purpose and purchase, they're pretty close when you say them. Just try it. You'll see. But it's called Pages with Purpose. And you can find that at Amazon. It's just 99 cents. And when you buy that book, I swear a fairy will get its wings. And I can't validate that, but it's what I feel in my heart. And what really happens is you're going to help us push that book to number 1. But it's all about personal stories that inspire others and personal stories about passion. Okay, so Pages with Purpose. Check it out. I think you'll absolutely love it. All right. Have a good one for now, and I will talk to you